Hi everyone, my name is Azhar Yusuf from CoachSG. I'd like to first thank you, my first school, for inviting us to present at this virtual Discovery Day. I'd like to first invite you to journey with me and travel back in time to when you were a child and ask yourself who was your first coach or who were your first coaches? Who would that be? I think some of you may, put down the coach that you had for your badminton, in your football. Who was it that guided you through your first milestones in life? The first step that you took, the first time you threw or catch a ball, the first time you kick a ball, the first time that you had an experience in the water, in the swimming pool. And I think you would agree with me that that first coach is actually your parents or our parents. And that's why for today's session, we have entitled it as Parents as First Coaches. Because for every milestone, the parents are going to be there to help a child through and guide them through that period. We strongly believe in this. We believe that parents are indeed every child's first coaches. And therefore, we have designed a program called My First Coach to enable parents to be able to really be that good first coaches for their child.
My first coaches would bring my siblings and I to the swimming complex. I would just play in the baby pool alone. I asked my first coaches if I could learn to swim properly. So water is the ticket to my freedom.
Without my first coaches, I would have quit netball long ago. I fractured my wrist on the first netball training. My first coach taught me not to give up too easily. So when I got better, I immediately went back to the court to train, and I trained harder than before.
There was one day when my first coach decided to just take measurements of my hand. So only then I realized it was all planned carefully so that I could have my fitted and customized bowling ball. So my first training session, I came into the bowling center with full set of equipment where kids usually don't get their equipment at their first training session.
At the Beijing Paralympics, I raced two events, the 50 meters freestyle and the 50 meters backstroke. After the event, I got a silver. I was slightly disappointed. When I hugged my mom and then said that I was gonna get a gold next, she didn't say anything to me. I think she didn't want to pressure me as well.
When I first started at the Singapore Sports School, it was quite a tough period for me because I had to find time to adjust, being more independent. It took me like at least 6 months to get used to it. My coach told me to use these 4 years of my life at the Singapore Sports School to mature and be more independent, and also being a professional athlete after that.
I was really excited to be in the World Cup team. What happened was, played many countries and till we played against Fiji, the number 7th in the world. We were leading towards the last minute or so, and I missed the last shot. Eventually, we lost the game. So the fact that I missed that shot was still a trauma to me till probably 5 years after the competition, and I really wanted to give up netball for good. My first coach put me into a room and he told me that, hey Charmaine, this is the lowest that you can ever get, so just keep working hard and you will get there someday. My first coaches are my mom and dad. I'm very thankful that they're always down for my games to be there for me physically. They'll fly to various countries just to support me and to know that we are here.
My parents are my first coaches and my biggest cheerleaders. For that, I'm very grateful that they have always just been very supportive and by my side throughout this whole journey. Ever since I've started on this journey of competitive swimming, they've never given me much pressure, regardless when it comes to studies or swimming or anything. They have always trusted me to make the right decisions.
My first coach also happens to be my father. That's why, to me, I feel like bowling has a huge impact in my life. My mother is the one that, it's quite embarrassing to say, but she still irons my clothes and wash all my training attire. If she can bring water and stuff, also she bring for me. But yeah, so she's the one that prepares all the behind the scene kind of work and make sure that I'm always healthy and always be at my best when I want to compete. My first coach was the one that paved the road for me to be a professional athlete.
My active parents,
my first coach.
my first coach.
My first coach.
So in our program, there are 3 key pillars. First is developing fundamental movement skills. Second is to develop values and character in our children. And third is to develop that understanding of what active health means and developing that lifelong learning and lifelong physical activity and lifelong positive lifestyle. So in the next half an hour, join us to understand more about this program and particularly how to develop fundamental movement skills in our children. In my first coach program, we encourage parents to have lots of fun activities with their kids. What we want you to remember is 2 things. One is the fun design. FUN. F stands for fun fundamentals, U stands for understanding, and N stands for nurturing. In F, fundamentals, we want parents to engage in play and activities and games with their kids to develop fundamental movement skills. And in U, understanding, we want kids to understand what they're doing and what happens to the implement to their bodies when they're doing it. And finally, nurturing. So as parents, we want to continue to praise and encourage and motivate them so that they want to continue to engage in the play, right? And continue to want to play some more. The other one is about DEX, and we call it DEXit. In the activities and fun play that we engage with our kids, we want there to be an element of DEX. And DEX stands for Discover, Explore, and Experiment. So in juggling a balloon like what Elias is doing here, we want him not just to juggle with the right hand, but with the left hand, with different parts of the body, with the head, with the fingers, so that they develop ambidexterity. Right? More than anything else, we want them to be comfortable with their body and develop ambidexterity like that. Alright, that's awesome, Elias. High five. In this episode, we're going to share with you the different activities that you can do developing locomotor skills. And this includes walking, running, hopping, jumping, and many more. So have a look at our videos and our sharing so that you can have ideas on how you can develop your kids' fundamental movement skills, but focusing on locomotor. For jogging and running, the important thing also to look at is the form and technique. So if they are going to be running, Ilyas, you want to show me how you run on the spot? That's right. So the key thing to note here is the head should be still and steady. The shoulders should be relaxed. And in trying to make sure that they relax their shoulders, we tell them, pretend as though you got potato chips in your finger, and when you swing, you don't want to break it. Yeah, that's it. That will make sure that the shoulders are nice and relaxed. Then the knees obviously will be bent, and the legs, or the foot rather, landing on the front of the foot. Right, and stop. Nice one there. High five. So in terms of landing, if we are landing on the heel, then the legs is straightened and there's very little cushioning there. So we want to make sure that they're landing on the front of the foot. Ilyas, land on the front of the foot, so that there's a lot more cushioning, because as you can see, the knees are bent. Yeah. So once again, when it comes to running, when it comes to walking, when it comes to jogging especially, then we want to be able to make sure that the form and technique is correct. All the locomotor movement, one of the most important thing is about coordination. So a quick way in which we can determine whether the kids are having good coordination or not would be the skiing test. Ilyas, show us the skiing test. And stop. Now if they do the skiing test and they have their right arm coordinated with the left leg, that means they got fairly good coordination. If they are doing this, and stop. So he has his left arm and left leg together at the same time. That means they need a bit more work in terms of the coordination. So as they continue to take part in physical activity, in locomotor skills like running, jumping, hopping, skipping, leaping, and so on, they'll get better at coordination, and that will help them play games a lot better, a lot more confidently. One thing that you can do with your kids at home is just to simply lay out a rope like that and get them to do a game called Follow the Leader. So Ilyas, you want to be the leader, then I'll be the follower? Yeah, alright. So he can just walk on the rope, and for young kids, stepping on the rope requires the ability to remain stable and balanced. So simple game like this will encourage that balance in them. And if you want to up the challenge, then we put in some locomotor skills as well, like jumping, hopping, and so on. Yeah. So now I'm going to be the leader, you're going to be the follower. Yeah. So you're going to follow exactly what I do. Spin. And turn. Very good. So if your kids can do this, there's a lot of turning, a lot of twisting. That means they've got good non-locomotor skills, good stability, good turning and twisting skills. And that is essential in many dynamic movement that we find in sports. In this episode, we're talking about manipulative skills or object control skills. In many object control skills, what is easy to start off with is throwing and catching using the hands or anything that uses the hands, because the kids can actually grab and grasp the object. So if you want to be telling them or teaching them about throwing and catching, again, the use of implement is important. And for us, for Ilyas here, we're going to use a balloon because it helps him get early success. We call it engineering early success. So try and catch the balloon. Try and juggle it. Left hand, right hand. Remember the dexit, developing ambidexterity, and catch. So the reason why he's successful in doing that is because we have used an object like the balloon that gives him time and space to react and catch the ball. As they get better, we can introduce something like that, a bit bigger object, a little bit faster. The good thing about wave ball is that you can put your fingers in there and you're able to capture or able to catch the ball. Other things that you can use would be a fluff ball like this, right, Ilyas? Or we can use something that gives you that time and space by throwing and catching a scarf like this. See if we can catch the scarf, Ilyas. There you go. Time and space that we're giving them so they can develop their manipulative or object control skills. We're going to be talking about manipulative or object control skills. For many object control skills activity, it's easy to start off with anything that uses the hands. So the two things we're going to look at today is bouncing as well as dribbling with the hands. So when it comes to bouncing, we try to get them to form a W. Yeah, that's right. And start bouncing and catching, maintaining the W. You guys want to show us? That's it, maintain W. That allows them to be able to throw and catch or bounce the ball on the ground and catch the ball very easily. As they get better, they can progress on to dribbling with the hands. And when it comes to dribbling, the key points to note here is the cue of fingers dirty and palms clean. So I'm going to show you how that looks like. Just using my fingers to push the ball down. Fingers dirty, palms clean. Show us, Ilyas. And catch. Well done. So if they're able to understand this and use these cues, they will be able to perform the activities very well. Today we're going to be talking about manipulative or object control skills. It is important to note that rolling, although very basic, is actually the building blocks of higher level skills or more complex skills. So you can start with rolling, and as you progress, you can then turn it into throwing, right? And it goes to other forms of throwing as well. It all starts with that rolling action. Even if you're using an implement like a racket, the action is similar to rolling. But now you have an implement like a racket to strike the object. Or it also actually looks like the action of using the stick like in floorball. So the action of rolling is similar to the action of using a long implement like a floorball or hockey stick. So that tells us that action of rolling is actually very basic, very fundamental, and allows us to build it to more complex and high level skills in sports. In this episode, we're looking at manipulative or object control, but specifically kicking and kicking the ball. So when kids first start kicking the ball, they will use a technique called towing. And that's because it looks natural when they're walking, and therefore when they start kicking, they will just walk and do that towing action like what Elias and I are showing. Right? It's easy and it's natural for them. As they get better, get them to point their toes, and that becomes the instep or the laces, using the laces. Yeah? Elias, come, let's show. Nice. Using the laces. That's it. And there. As they get better, we can progress to introducing the inside foot, which is this part. Yeah? Alright, let's do that. Inside foot pass. Inside foot pass. And the reason why we do that is because the inside foot has got a bigger surface area. It allows you to be able to strike the ball better and also to stop the ball. Right? And remember the principle of dex. We want to dexate. We want to improve ambidexterity. So we're going to introduce them and allow them to discover, explore, and experiment with different parts of the foot. All right? So inside foot, the other leg, outside foot, the different parts of the foot. Yeah, we're going to experiment, discover, explore, and be able to play the ball well. So this is how we're going to introduce to the kids to all the fun elements involving kicking. We're going to be looking at manipulative or object control, but specifically something that involves an implement like a racket as well as an object, where you use the implement to strike an object. Very often when parents are engaging their kids to do this kind of activities, they will get them to do something like that, where they can see the balloon, but they can't see the racket. Or if they can see the racket, then they can't see the balloon. When you're doing that, then what happens is they might miss because they see one or the other, but not both. So what we want to do is, in order to engineer early success, we want to be able to allow them to see the implement as well as to see the object. All right, you guys ready? So it's easy for him to hit like that because he can see both the object and the implement at the same time, and therefore that makes them very successful in doing this activity. So I hope you found the last 30 minutes really engaging and insightful in terms of understanding how to develop FMS in our kids, and also to start thinking about how also to guide your kids in terms of development of values and character, the second pillar in our program, as well as active health. Now, to find out more about FMS as well as the other two pillars, please visit our website and our YouTube channel. There are lots and lots of resources there for you to use, and we hope that you take them and start having fun with your kids and start developing them in all these areas. Have fun!